Hi, I'm Ned Kelly. Welcome to the Buddha Brunch. Today we have Reverend Dr. Jane Simmons. She is an ordained Unity minister. She has a doctorate of theology. She is the author of Eye of the Storm for Teens. She co-authored Who Have You Come Here to Be with Reverend Kelly Isola and Dr. Rima Benario. And she is currently serving as co-minister with Reverend Gary Simmons at Unity Spiritual Center, Spokane, Washington. Jane, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Happy to be here, Ned.
You can learn more about Reverend Jane Simmons at theqeffect.com. We are going to talk largely about your new book coming out soon, You Can't Sleep Through Your Awakening. But first, I just want to ask you a little bit about your current ministry, Unity Spiritual Center in Spokane, Washington State. You and Gary have been out there for over a year now, haven't you?
Just over a year. We arrived, our first Sunday was Easter Sunday a year ago. And so it's a year and about 3 months now.
Our listeners may be interested in an update in Gary's health.
Gary's health, yes. Well, so they did a PET scan for him on March 1st and found close to 30 tumors inside and out. He had a second PET scan June the 1st, and the tumors are all virtually gone.
Amazing.
Yes.
And that was through traditional medicine as well as?
Non-traditional, yes. He's done the whole range. He did immunotherapy as the traditional aspect of it, but he had a whole variety of non-traditional, including emotional work and supplementation and you name it, he's doing it. And it worked, and we're celebrating. We are celebrating, let me tell you.
Very cool. And I've been keeping up on what you all have been doing on his blog, drgarysimmons.com.
Exactly. It's finally putting theory into practice, learning as we go. Very exciting. We just so love it here. It's like we found our tribe and we feel very at home. We really feel blessed. We're excited about where we're going.
And what is it like co-ministering with Gary? I'm guessing you get a lot of opportunity to practice your heart math?
I do, but not because there's a lot of conflict in our world. But when Gary first came to me with the idea of doing co-ministry, he asked me, what do you think? And I said, well, define co-ministry first. Let's get clear on this. I want to see what you have in mind. And so Gary did what Gary does so amazingly. He did a Venn diagram. And on one side, all the things that I would take care of, the other side, his, and then the center was our shared stuff. And if you could have handed me the perfect ministry with all of my favorite things and all the things that I'm passionate about and that I love to do, that's what was handed to me. And he does the same.
So let us talk about your new book coming out in October.
It is called You Can't Sleep Through Your Awakening. Typically, we can sleepwalk through our lives, and we can be lost in a world of perceiving our lives through a filter of limiting beliefs and faulty perceptions and past history and all those things. So the book is designed to help us to recover from that and to wake up to who we really, truly are, to get an experience of the authentic self that lies beneath all of that stuff.
And what are the methods? I feel an acronym coming on.
You feel an acronym coming? Yes. I zeroed in on 4 practices that can help us to do that. The first is, and these are not in the order they necessarily come in the book, but it spells a word that I want to use. So the first is forgiveness, and specifically that's self-forgiveness. I want to be clear on that. The second, appreciation, gratitude, how to use that. The third is compassion, and again, self-compassion, not strictly self-compassion and self-forgiveness, but zeroing in on how to do that in order to do it outwardly as well. And the fourth is being the change that we seek. In other words, embodying what it is we want to become. So forgiveness, appreciation, compassion, embodiment spells the word face. And so really using these practices, one, to deal with life as it's coming to us, not pushing it away, not resisting it, but facing it, allowing it, and utilizing it to grow into who we've come here to be. And secondly, to be able to see the face of the authentic self. both internally to be able to see the authentic self and seeing the authentic face shining forth from every pair of eyes.
That concept of facing the dark side seems to be growing, as far as I can tell, growing within the Unity movement and New Thought movement. It is less about just think happy thoughts. There's more of a willingness to face and acknowledge the icky stuff, the bad, quote unquote, bad stuff.
Yes.
And I think that's probably good for the Unity movement.
You know, New Thought spirituality has a shadow to it when we just pretend that everything's okay and you know, the old joke of finding yourself in hell and saying, you know, this isn't hell and I'm not hot. It's not reality. It's suppressing, it's denying in the sense of psychological denial that is really unhealthy. And those things carry on under the surface. You know, we can deny the appearance of the shadow or the belief in a shadow, but it doesn't go away until we allow it to be embraced, brought forth into the light. We get into self-compassion as the avenue through which we can be with that painful self and painful moment and help it to heal.
I had a chance to read the introduction to You Can't Sleep Through Your Awakening, in that you share about the inspiration for this book. Would you talk about that with us today?
A memorial service for a young man who was a teenager, had everything going for him, you know, just finished high school, college on the horizon, lots of friends, a loving family, and he took his own life. I was asked to do that memorial service, and it was very quickly after the fact. It happened on a Saturday. I got the call Tuesday. The memorial was Sunday. So it was still very raw and very up there. And it was the hardest memorial I've ever done. And I've done, you know, dozens and dozens of them. However, this one just struck me in such a deep place. And I had a lot of trouble with it. I struggled with it. And, you know, I have a lot of flowery language and beautiful prayers and all readings. I threw 90% of it out the window because it just seemed like it wasn't authentic and real. And I came with a very bare bones memorial service and opened it up to everyone sharing. And the family thought there might be about 100 people there. There were 300 people that showed up. It was standing room only. We had to open up doors and bring in chairs and to fit everyone. And person after person, whether it was family, friends, the whole gamut, they came up one by one and talked about how much they loved this young man, how much he meant to them in their lives. And I sat there thinking, if he really would have known how much he was loved, if he really could have let that in, if he really could have seen the authentic self that he was, would it made a difference for him? And, you know, I'll never know the answer to that. Who knows? But nonetheless, that moment lit a fire underneath me. I decided the time is now. I just became much more on a mission that I really want to help people discover their innate value and worth and to really see the amazing, magnificent beings that they are and we are, and to share that with the world. And so I just, I got very motivated, and it planted a seed in me that day that is continuing to flower, and I've just not wavered off that path since.
That is beautiful. You describe a scene from The Matrix, where Neo is given the choice of the red pill or the blue pill. Basically, you can wake up or stay asleep.
And so we utilize that analogy throughout the book. You know, I'll refer to blue pill living, you know, where we're lost in an unconscious, unconscious behaviors, just being run by this pattern that we don't even realize is happening. We always have the red pill. We can always take that red pill to wake up. But I'll give the same caution that Neo was given, that once you take the red pill, there's no turning back. Once you know this stuff, you can't unknow it. You can sink back into unconscious living, but you'll always know that there's something there.
Would you say this book is primarily about spiritual enlightenment or more about how to live a happy and successful life?
Yes.
That's the answer I was looking for.
It has both elements in it, really, because what is a spiritual life but being on this path of self-discovery, of discovering the authentic self within, and really getting to connect with that deeper dimension of ourselves that lies there all the time. It's always there, but we cover it up with all this other stuff that so that we're unaware of it. And so it's really about awakening to that deeper self, and that's where the happiness and the joy, it's just a natural springing forth when you're being who you've come here to be.
Talk about, if you would, how the Q effect relates to this new book.
A lot of what I'm describing in the book and the processes I'm describing are embedded in something we call the Q process, and that is a method of having triggering moments, and we have worksheets where you work through a whole process of coming down, finding the limiting belief, getting to a place of self-compassion, all the way to embodying the change that you want to see. And so I've just taken some really key parts of that process and zeroed in on them to really look at how they can work. And so the Q process really is another way to do this work. And that's why if you go to theqeffect.com, you can find out more about that. We have people that are trained as Q coaches who can work with you. And we have done, of course, in our church in Spokane, we have practically the entire community has gone through the Q Effect.
Fantastic. And of course, that is Unity Spiritual Center, Spokane, Washington. Well, in closing now, is there anything else on your heart and on your mind?
Well, at first, I want to thank you for this time. It's been wonderful, and it's exciting work. I think that's what I want to say. That this work sometimes it can feel difficult and hard, but really, it's an adventure that we take and through that adventure of self-discovery, we find so much more. The treasures that really live within us. And it's an exciting journey. It's an uplifting journey. It's an inspiring journey. And it takes us right back home to our hearts. And so I'm excited and delighted to share this work. So thank you.
Jane Simmons, thank you. The book is You Can't Sleep Through Your Awakening. Look for it in October on Amazon, on theqeffect.com, and hopefully in your local Unity and New Thought bookstores. If you have enjoyed this interview, you can support me on patreon.com/Ned Kelly. You can like Buddha Brunch on Facebook, and to learn about spiritual improv and everything I offer, you can visit nedkelly.net, nedkelley.net. Reverend Dr. Jane Simmons, thank you so much.
Wonderful to be here. Thanks, Ned.
Namaste.
Namaste.